Calling Avatar Sentai Dawn Brothers a masterpiece is an understatement because this is the best show that 2022 has to offer. So, Avatar Sentai Dawn Brothers had their finale this week, and I have to say that I had a total blast with this series. I mean, my favorite tokusatsu show always used to be Kamen Rider series because it's mostly oriented towards teenagers or directed towards teenagers, and I am a teenager, so I would love Kamen Rider. But Super Sentai was a comedy gag type show which is definitely aimed towards kids. And I have to say, Avatar Sentai Dawn Brothers is definitely not a kids show. There are so many elements that they talk about which shouldn't be talked about in a kids show, and that's what makes it interesting. It is definitely still a comedy, but that's what makes it even more better. There's each and every episode that we see is amazing, that we get to laugh and have fun. And I can proudly say this is not just my favorite Super Sentai season, but my favorite tokusatsu show ever. And if you ask me what the plot is, well, trust me, there isn't a proper plot, like a proper outline of a story. It's just pure fun. It's focused on characters and character development. The character dynamics between them is amazing. And yes, there is a bit of story here and there. There is something that we do, and action. Even though this is supposed to be an action show, there is action like here and there. I mean, most of the Zord fights are like for 2 minutes. We don't even get Zord fights in so many episodes, which I'm really glad that they did it in this way. This isn't a typical children's show. But the main part of the series that makes this even more interesting is its characters. And here I am trying to talk about the characters right now. First up, the Red Ranger of the series is Momoi Taro, and I have to say that he is my favorite main Red Ranger from any of the series. His presence on screen is amazing. He's the guy who gets heart attacks or he dies if he tells lies. I mean, really, that's a plot point in the series. And since he doesn't lie, he is always cold hearted, kind of. He doesn't know what true happiness means, and that's what he tries to find throughout the series. And he gets that in the form of his friends that he makes along the way. And that's what makes this story about this character really amazing. The Blue Ranger of the series is Saruhara Shinichi, and I have to say that this guy is the only one among these Rangers whose character was not developed. But I can totally understand the writer's intentions. He is the guy whose arm burns if he touches money, so he's never used money.
I still don't understand how he eats every time in that same cafe.
But if we focus on his story, there is not much to see because he literally has zero character development. He's the same as he was before, and he takes on the role of strategist for the team, which they barely use. They don't use strategy at all, they just plainly attack, and that's okay, I guess, to me. The Yellow Ranger of the series, that is Kito Haruka, is an amazing addition to the cast. Her expressions, her fourth wall breaking is amazing.
Can't believe she's a teenager.
And also, she is the one who introduces us to the story. We follow her mostly for the first few set of episodes, trying to get inside this whole new world that Inoue is writing for us. And I was really interested that we are having this kind of dynamic, not focusing on the Red Ranger as the main one, but as the Yellow Ranger, that too the female one. And that was amazing to look at. And we also have the Black Ranger, who is Inuzuka Tsubasa. He happens to be the Inu brother of the team, and I was kind of weirded out when they announced that they were CGI Rangers. And yes, it is still an eyesore to see them being CGI on screen. I would have preferred for them to be actual Rangers, but that's what makes this even more interesting is because of its weirdness in the plot. And they are still there, and it's amazing. Entire story arc of being with Natsumi, trying to find Natsumi, being on the run from the officers, the police, that's amazing too. And the best part about Black Ranger is that he isn't introduced at all to the main set of Rangers until the last 5 episodes or something. That was really interesting, I think. His role with the Pink Ranger was amazing too. The Pink Ranger, as we were speaking, is of course Tsuyoshi Kijino, the Kiji brother, who also happens to be a CGI Ranger and also the first male Pink Ranger from Super Sentai. If you don't include that is the Tokyugers who could change color. As I was saying, this is a kind of serious show which was taken as a comedy. He suffers from mental health issues that he's having, and his entire obsession with Miho, who happens to be Natsumi, who's Natsumi but she is not. This is a really confusing show. Those of you who watch the show understand what I mean, but I really like that aspect of him being kind of mentally weak. He is a Dawn brother because he wants to protect himself, and that's totally okay as we find out in the finale of the series. Kijino, I have to say, is one of my favorite characters because he is weak. He is the Usopp of the Dawn brothers, and that's amazing. And I like how his character development goes from being absolutely bad to become even more worse and then trying to become a good guy even at the end of the series. The sixth ranger of the series is Momotani Jiro, and what I really loved about this is he suffers from split personality or dissociative identity disorder. He has two personalities inside him, the fun, cheerful guy who happens to be Don Dragoku, and the one who's really serious, the serious Jiro, and he is Don Torabolt. I really liked that there were two rangers in the same body and trying to, become the Zord by splitting themselves up. That was amazing. I really wish there was something more of a story arc for him other than him just being like, okay, I think we need to merge, and them both just merging and becoming a stronger personality. I'm not kidding, I really liked that they were a stronger personality together, but I wanted more, a new form, something to signify that they both have been united into a single personality. I'm glad that he actually became the Dawn Brothers leader now as a replacement. And a running trope of this series is that the villains can be forgiven. And they just introduced a random plot point called the Ring of Forgiveness, and just in the next episode it was solved. And that was amazing, I think. Now the Noto trio, who were introduced to us as the main villains of the series, have become the heroes. That was kind of weird, but I can totally understand. That's the character development that they got from the first episode to the last episode. If you went back and saw the first episode, you would see how much they have changed now. The main Noto, is Sonoi, who happens to have a great dynamic with the Red Ranger, and he happens to be the secondary kind of leader in the series, with that is Momotani Jiro. Sonoi's suit is amazing, as of course he looks like Ultraman somehow, but it's okay. He is the dark blue ranger of the series, I guess, and that's amazing. They're not even rangers right now. They look like a separate set of rangers, but they are in this too. The next one we need to talk about is Sononi, who happens to have a character dynamic with Inuzuka Tsubasa. She wanted to see how far he would go to rescue the one he loves, and ended up falling in love with him. That's weird. I was really confused on how they would resolve all storylines at the end of the episode, but I'm glad that they finally found a way to conclude her story arc, and I was satisfied with the arc that she got. Finally, Sonoza, I guess the weakest of the main Noto trio in terms of character development. I'd say that he went to and became a chief editor for the Yellow Ranger, and she is the one he has a character dynamic with. I think that was amazing and kind of weird too at the same time. To me, the weakest ranger in terms of screen time is of course Don Murasame. I wish that he had something more to do with the story other than being able to cut through the Juto and then finally discarded from the story until the Juto are gone, and then he comes back in the final episode and is like, I want to fight with whom I like, and he just switches sides with the Dawn brothers. That was kind of weird, but I guess Inoue did it so we could have 10 Dawn brothers doing a roll call in the final episode. I really liked that. But honestly speaking, I think I would have loved it if Don Murasame was there in the series for even more time. And finally, Black Kaito, the mysterious man himself. The Kaito that we know from Zenkaiger is here, but he is a totally different guy, like a really, really cool guy. And guess what? The mystery about him is not being solved yet. Who is he and what is he doing here? I have no idea who he is still now, and I don't think we will even know that too. We are getting the crossover movie Zenkaiger versus, Dawn Brothers, and I'm hoping that we would get some answers in that. And that's all for my review, guys. I would have loved to talk more about the plot and the design and how it goes on about the new Noto trio, about the main villains of the series, which were there, I guess, about the Hitotsuki designs, about the Zord fights, and what I think about the Zords, about the little mechas that we found out it exists weirdly. But I seriously don't have time to talk about them. I guess the main part of Dawn Brothers is its characters, and that's what I want to talk about. So that's all for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. I do my anime content and probably tokusatsu weekly content, reviewing it in the form of shorts. So if you don't want to miss out on any of that, subscribe to my channel, hit the notifications icon, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Till then, sayonara guys, chat out.